Welcome to Learn Literacy, the podcast that brings you inspiring conversations that focus on teaching literacy through language and structure. I am your host, Cheryl Urbanzik, an experienced educator and passionate advocate on a mission inspired by my family's experience with dyslexia. Each episode explores topics that help us understand how we can teach the language as it is to the student as they are. Tune in and become part of a community dedicated to supporting language for life. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Learn Literacy podcast. I'm excited today to have a practitioner profile, and I'm here with Francine Hannon from Massachusetts. So I'm excited to talk to her about Orton-Gillingham and hear about the great work she does. So welcome, Francine. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks, Cheryl. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, I usually start by asking people about their OG journeys, like where you first learned about OG, how you did, what was your training experience like, how you got to be where you are today.
Sure. So I'll share a little bit about myself. So I am a public school teacher. In my role, I work with special education students only in reading. So this is my, 16th year in teaching. And I probably learned about Orton-Gillingham like my second year as a teacher. And the school that I was working in at the time had the language-based learning program. And so I had always known that students in this program received a lot of support in reading, writing, and then there were two teachers in the school who did Orton-Gillingham. And I didn't really know what it was at the time, but I knew that did their reading with those two teachers. And then Orton-Gillingham kind of found me. So then, I was a teacher at the school and they needed to add more staff who could do reading instruction in this. And so my principal had said to me, this feels like something that you would be really good at. And she's like, I'm going to send you to this church. And I was like, great. So, I was very fortunate that my school district paid for the first coursework that you do at the associate level, as well as the practicum, which was really generous. And so since then, I've completed the associate level and I went on to do the certificate level as well.
That's great. And so are you able to support students more in a one-to-one experience, or you work in groups? I'm just wondering what the model is like, because in Ontario, we don't have many instances of public school teachers doing Orton-Gillingham in schools. So
Okay.
just curious about the model.
Yeah. So I'm no longer at that school, but I am within the same public school district, just in a different elementary school. And we do have opportunities for one-on-one instruction with students, especially at the elementary level when they can make greater gains when they're younger. But I also do work with some small groups too. Sometimes 3 students, but most of the time 2 students. And so it's really great because the kids really get the targeted instruction that they need.
And how long do you work with students? Do you work with them for a set amount of time and then you switch to other students, or until they meet criteria or benchmarks? Or...
Yeah, so the students that I work with all participate in special education, so they have an IEP. Typically, I would say most students work with me 4 times 45 minutes a week, 4 days a week, 45 minutes in length. Some children get less, 3 days a week. And I'm usually the person that does their evaluations and I write their IEP goals and then I work with them.
That's wonderful that they can get such intensive support. And I think you're right on in terms about it being early rather than late, and so helpful that way.
Yeah, it's really great for the kids. And they know exactly what they're working on. They know why they come to reading. Never had to explain to a child why reading is important. They just know. And
Yeah.
so they're very motivated and they know what they
Mhm.
need to work on.
Well, that's neat. All right. So, in terms of your growth as an OG practitioner, how do you feel now compared to when you first started? What do you see as your own personal journey and growth along that time?
So I feel like there's always something new to be learned in Orton-Gillingham.
Mhm.
I really enjoy going to the conference every year because I do feel like I walk away with something that I'm like, I haven't tried that before. Or I should be embedding a different strategy for morphology, for example. So I do feel like when I started teaching Orton Gillingham, my understanding now as a practitioner is definitely more in depth. And there are things that I tweaked along the way in like my scope and sequence for students, and every student is different. But just being more thoughtful about, I think one of the misconceptions about Orton-Gillingham is that it's just phonics, and it's so much more than just phonics. And I'm always trying to embed more layers that I can in my instruction.
That's neat. What would be something new you'd want to learn more about in terms of helping? You said there's always something new to learn. Is there a particular area that you want to dive in that you think would really enrich your instruction?
So as a public school teacher, we have to work with everyone. And so sometimes the students that I work with are not your classic dyslexia profile or your classic language-based disability. And so I would love to learn more about how to meet neurodiverse populations, because structured literacy benefits all kids. And so like how to modify it for that population, how far can they get with structured literacy practices with their kind of neurodiverse profile.
Mhm. I think that's really important. And I think we all see kids coming with, let's say, comorbidities of attention or maybe some writing or
Hmm.
many things, right? And how all those interplay to allow us to support the student is needs a lot of insight that I want to learn about too. And it's interesting that you said that because that's been a theme that's kind of come up in other conversations I've had with people that we all see the need for that. That I think when we think about individualized and emotionally sound, those principles, I
Hmm.
think that's where there's some good avenues for learning and growth there, speaking
Exactly.
for me too.
Yeah. And I understand and I totally acknowledge that Orton Gillingham was developed for a dyslexic profile.
Right.
And I think it can be adapted for other populations too. But I would like to know more about what really
Yeah.
works and how to meet those diverse needs.
Yeah, definitely. Do you see challenges in your current practice with OG? Or you said there's other teachers that do OG where you are. Is there enough of you? Do you find that, do you have like roadblocks, stumbling blocks, challenges, things like that?
Let me think. So I work in a pretty affluent community that's very well educated and has a strong social economic status. Um, so I would say the parent community is highly educated in what Orton Gillingham is, which is nice. In my role, usually along like the MTSS timeline, where students receive intervention through general education and they qualify for special education. Um, I would say some of the challenge is in terms of like what is the correct amount of service delivery? Can the students be grouped? Are the groupings homogenous? Are they not? Are they grouping? So some of that is outside of my control, just working in a public
Right.
school.
Yeah.
So, but I do the best that I can to advocate for my
Yeah.
students and what they need. So we make it work.
I think sometimes logistics are just logistics, and within the framework that you have, you just have to do the best that you can. But it's nice when parents have that knowledge about OG and can support their student and help them with that. So that's good. So, do you see any urgent pressing issues in your Orton-Gillingham practice in school or it's going good?
Sometimes, like I was mentioning before,
Mhm.
like some of our neurodiverse populations,
Mhm.
sometimes because there is so much parent education, sometimes there are misconceptions about Orton Gillingham as well. And like if it's truly the right intervention for a student. For example, you know, um, a student with, you know, a cognitively, like, far below what's typically
Mhm.
average, and sometimes we have families who are advocating for that. So I think parent education is great, and sometimes there is also additional education that's needed in
Mhm.
what will be effective for a student, which is why I do want to learn more about if it's appropriate for other populations, so that
I think
could be a barriers.
you're right on point there that sometimes when there's various complexities to the profile, it it may be more challenging to figure out the best support and how to meet that child's needs with what you
Exactly.
have. So if you have MTSS, are you like the tier 3 intervention then? So what do they do for tier 2? Is it just more like in-class support and the teacher does some extra group work with the student like that?
Yeah, so I would say tier 3 is like special education, and tier 2 is typically working with a general education teacher, or
Mhm.
sorry, a general education literacy specialist. And that can be in a push-in model in the classroom, but it can also be pulling out of the classroom in a small group.
It's great. There's different levels of support. I think a lot has happened within a short time in the past 5 years or so to get many of these models in, and they're seeing good results. But it's like a whole change process
Yeah, the
to get
science
there.
of reading is like very hot right now.
Yes.
And I don't think there's a single parent out there who wants to feel like their child is missing out on that. So there's a lot involved too.
Yeah. No, for sure. So, what are your future goals as an OD practitioner?
I would love to pursue the fellow training at some point. I don't know that it'll happen in the immediate future for me, but it is a long-term goal that I have. And until then, I really love my job. I love working with
Hmm.
children.
Yeah.
The growth that they make is just so rewarding for them and for me.
Hmm.
And then aside from that, I've always told my husband, I'm like, someday I really want to work with adults, perhaps adults who are incarcerated, um, because that whole prison to pipeline illiteracy, I think there's a lot there that, those groups of people can use some support. But those are all like very long-term plans.
I'm kind of the feeling of if we don't put things out there, we might not reach our goals, right? So that's really awesome. And I think there's a lot of work with adults who are dyslexic, and sometimes the focus is just on kids, but
Mhm.
there's other age groups that need support too. So, yeah.
And who may have not even realized that they have dyslexia, but now as
Yeah.
an adult come to this realization of why they struggled as children. So I think to be able to help adults would be really
Mhm.
useful.
I agree. That would be wonderful. We need lots of good people out there doing that work. So as we kind of wrap up today, what would be a piece of advice that you would share for other practitioners, or maybe something that you wish you had known when you started your OG journey? What would you want to share?
Oh gosh, probably to like find your people. I think I'm very fortunate in my role that there are several people in my school that have Orton-Gillingham training and certification. And it's really great just to be able to bounce ideas off of other practitioners on, hey, I'm seeing this with a student. Like, what do you think about this? Do you think maybe I should give this a try? And just find your people in helping you talk about kids, because every kid is unique and different. And I think like the more the better with just finding people that can support you and supporting the kids that you're working
Yeah.
with.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I think the role of community is so key. I think after COVID, I think one very positive thing in the OG world is just the connection by technology and training by technology, because the reach is so much greater. All the tutoring is happening by technology. But yeah, finding your people is a big deal because we learn a lot from that interaction too. So it's not just the training and stuff like that. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Francine. I appreciate learning about you today and being with us. You have given us lots of inspiration for supporting students and takeaways that we can think about. So I appreciate your time today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Thanks. Thank you for tuning in to the Learn Literacy podcast, your trusted source for learning how to teach literacy through language and structure. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the podcast with fellow educators and literacy advocates. For more information, visit learnliteracy.com and follow us on social media at LearnLiteracy1 for the latest updates. Together, we can empower every learner. Until next time, remember our goal of language for life.